Greetings, blade fans. Welcome back. It's going to be an out the front day today. That is, as in automatic knives. And automatic knives are still controversial. There's some states where they're changing the laws thanks to knife rights and all the efforts being made there to change a lot of the legislation that has been in place for years. The bans against automatic knives and so on and so forth. And I won't get up on the soapbox about that, but there's two things. Either you feel it's unnecessary or you don't want to have one because it's illegal. They're just a convenient and interesting way of opening a folding knife straight out the front. And what I have today, I'm going to call so far my Grail about the front knives. I think probably the Deadlock from Gavin Hawk would be top of the list if I were to add one more to the Grail out the front list. But what have we got here today? Well, I'm sure already know it is a Microtech Glykon, a new model they came out with some months ago. I think probably it was new for 2023. Might have even made an appearance before then. Why do I like it? Well, maybe you're already kind of basking in some of the richness of the construction as I am. Titanium, got aluminum here, high-grade aluminum, aircraft aluminum, hardened and anodized. These are removable covers, and eventually, we don't know when, they've been promising it, you're going to have covers you can put on here made from carbon fiber and other materials. So you can customize your own knife. It is a tri-way, I think that's the name they're using for it, opening switch. And let's take a look at what we've got inside. We'll take a look at some of the other details a little later. Back out a bit so you get the full impression. There it is. And yes, it is a bayonet grind because the top is not fully sharpened. And yes, I chose the model with the partial serrations. With all those serrations there, you may ask yourself, why are they calling it partial? Well, because you've got 50%, even I'd say 60% here as a smooth edge, should you want it, serrated here, and you've got about a 50-50, or maybe even a little better than that on the top. I have a knife, and if I can think to bring it out before we close this review, I'll show it to you. It is a Crosshair, also a Microtech knife, fixed blade. And it's got a very similar setup. It was one of the first to have this setup that's pretty common now on a lot of the Microtech OTFs, is to have this top and bottom serrations, and with some just the bottom serrations. But I think on the spear points and the dagger designs, it's more common to have them do it on both. Okay, blabbing on too long. Some of the things I like about this knife before we get into measurements, and it is a larger OTF for sure, is this heavily milled opening button, actuator, switch, whatever you'd like to call it. It is unique in that it is all one piece of titanium, just checking. All one piece. So when you move the top, you move the sides. Now, I can close it with that. I can, with a little bit of effort, open it with these two. I find in using a pinch grip on it, it's a lot tougher than using the thumb. And it's a pretty heavy spring. It is extremely smooth, but there's plenty of spring tension there. It goes out with authority. What I was going to show you is you can open it here, and then by kind of bracing that in your palm, you can pull back with your thumb and finger. A lot easier closing it with the thumb and finger than it is opening it that way. So I'm going to prefer to open it with the side actuator and not the sides, the side of the knife rather than the ones on the flats, shall we say. This could be top and these could be sides, whatever. One interesting noticeable thing is that we don't have the typical Microtech glass breaker on the end, as I have over here on the Dirac, original model Dirac, which is pretty commonplace on Microtech OTFs. They've completely redesigned this guy. It is a high, tall handle as far as Microtechs go. I'd say kind of in the territory of the Troodon and the Combat Troodon. This knife size is closer to the Combat Troodon. I don't have one of those to show you for comparison. I do like the fact that they left you a platform here for the thumb. It feels very comfortable for putting more pressure behind the cuts. One of the reasons I didn't get the smooth one, aesthetically speaking, you may like the smooth edge. I could have gotten one of those. This came from NC Blades. Great company to deal with, fast shipping down in North Carolina. Reason I got the serrations is that it makes it a more useful knife as a dagger grind. It is something you can easily add cutting power to rope, strapping, other items, flesh, because typically a dagger ground knife is not known for its cutting ability. You've got a very steep, shallow edge grind on a relatively thinner blade. It is not going to be a high flat grind like you've got on some out the side knives or manual knives. Well, let's get the specs out of the way. They may or may not align perfectly with Microtech's, but I like to do this in front of the camera so you get some scope and scale. Look how they managed to get that to be exactly 9 inches to the pommel. And cutting edge, 3 3/4. Exactly. Not cutting edge, full length of the blade, that is, to the handle. Cutting edge is like a 3.6, so slightly less than the overall length of the blade. And thickness dimensions. Going to grab it for a blade stock right here. 3 millimeters. Took a while for it to decide. 0.11. Handle. Right on the nose, 1/2 inch. How about that? So it's not an overly thick knife. It's got a good pocket clip, as we'll see in a moment. We're going to close that guy up and see what we've got for a weight. Got to shadow the scale a little. 5.24 ounces. Call it 5 1/4 ounces. Not bad for all that material. And the blade steel, if I didn't mention it, is listed as M390. There it is right there. It is not the M390 MK, which is their new brew in some of their MSI models and the Ramlock models for the stitch and so forth. So this is made in, one thing they do give you on all their knives, if I can find it, is the, unless it's just on the box, let's see. Can we find it? Well, when I find it, I'll show you. It was probably on the box. Oh, I know where it was. It's on the clip. Duh. They're putting them in new places. So this was from 6/2023. So this was made in June of this year, 2023. It is now near the end of August. So this is only about a 2-month-old baby. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Wah. Except it doesn't make that sound. It makes a very nice, wow, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. Beautiful. Fires every time. As I said, powerful spring. I have opened up OTF knives before. Whether or not I'll get to this one, I don't know. Probably what I'll do when and if they offer the side plates there is to maybe take a look at those and see what they'll run me. This is not a cheap knife. I'm not going to give you dollar amounts because they are going to vary over the years. So if you see this in another year, the price is going to be different. But again, you can look it up on NC Blades. It is up there with the highest end production knives. And that's why I'm calling it my Grail OTF of production knives. I would call the Hawk more of a custom because I know they at least assemble them by hand, and they're done in, I believe, a small machine shop. Obviously, Microtech is a smaller machine shop too when compared to big makers like Buck or Gerber or even Benchmade. Benchmade's got a huge shop. Okay, so it's got a handle similar to the Hera from pictures I've seen. I've got a good inch left over on that overall 9-inch. And the handle itself, which we didn't do for measurements, is a little under 5 1/4. So you got plenty to hold on to there. And again, it is just beautifully machined. I love the heavy machining. This was brought out most recently in recent years by the SOCOM Bravo, made by Reich Knives, and there was a big to-do over that. They were getting their knives made in China, and all the production was going to go overseas. Well, there's only 2 knives being made in China for Microtech. It is the Anax, and the SOCOM Bravo here, coming in a number of different variants. But I think what they've done with the milling on this and so forth, just giving you that extra jimping on the backspacer there, call it a backspacer, and on all of these buttons, and even this cut in here that really only serves to billboard the Microtech name, which is less billboarding than you usually see. There's some of their typical billboarding, but it's very grayish, so it doesn't stand out. So you've got a trough-like trench, sort of a fuller there on this guy. You might call this a fuller, but it's just a short little rectangle, kind of a trapezoid. And you can see all the crazy milling on this knife and the spanned backspacer. And just a lot of people feel they overdid it. I happen to like that. That's my taste. What can I tell you? The MSI, which came out recently, very recently, newest design, I believe, of all of these. Also, you've got that real chunky kind of milling that you ended up using a frag pattern on the later models of these. I don't know if they'll offer the smooth handle again. But you've got, again, what almost looks here in their ram lock like an actuator for an auto knife. I mean, Benchmade makes them so that you pull back on that and you got the spring on a lot of their Axis autos. And here we've got more their traditional clip. A lot of people complain about the clip. I am told the purpose of this clip is 2-stage. You can put it into the pants pocket or the waistband or what have you, up to there and have some left over to grab onto, or you can go deep carry. And it would be really nice if they hadn't used the button top screws on this. Why they do, maybe there's a purpose in strength, but it would be great. But it's tall enough so that I don't get a lot of interference from the pants and putting it in and out. And opening on this is with the hole only. Got a beautiful sheep's foot style blade and a little bit of a belly. But you can see very much here, I think, without even showing you the spines of the knives, that we've got a lot of the same design notes. Totally different profiles, but a lot of the same design notes. Here is my first out the front Microtech. Well, not really. I had an Ultratech years ago in a Tonto, beautiful knife. Ended up giving it away to somebody close, and this is my only other conventional. Well, it's conventional, but the Dirac has the side mounted on the flat button, like a lot of the earlier Infidels, Microtech Benchmade. But the big old honking glass breaker there, maybe some feel they need it, but on this size knife, I don't know. I mean, the nice thing about it is you can close the knife and cap it and use that as a glass breaker or a persuader pretty effectively. Let's take a look at it in size comparison to the Glykon. By the way, and I was thought of giving you this earlier, Glykon was the original snake god of Greek mythology. Double check that. Yep, ancient Greek. There you go. A little bit of history for you, a little background, Wikipedia, you can check it out. Spelled a couple different ways, with a K and with a C. Here's the knife I wanted to show you. By the way, look at that. Difference in size between a pretty tiny out the front knife from Microtech and a full scale one. Here is the crosshair, and look at that. Like a giant inflated version of the Glykon. Of course, it's a fixed blade. You can go giant wide on that, but it's a beautiful spear point blade with a thumb ramp and so forth. This one all decked out in desert tan, and this is D2, by the way. This goes back, the manufacturer on this was 2011, so 12-year-old knife. That's like ancient in recent knife history, right? This is like some kind of weird molded, hard as a rock plastic substance, like a fiberglass, but without being G10, I believe. Anyway, that's the crosshair. But you can see on the crosshair, they used that same motif with the holes in the center and serration, but you've got a full smooth edge on the bottom, which frankly, I would like to have seen on this one if they would do one like that. I think only the custom shop ones have the smooth edge down here and the serrations up top. One other knife for compare, one of my favorites. This is from Benchmade. It is an S30V. And the name was right on the tip of my tongue. Yes, well, it's the Autocrat, which I should have known. This is such a light knife. There's nothing to it. And I also do have the shootout, the original shootout with the original handle material. But this I liked because it was G10 with a aluminum frame underneath. Really a comfortable handle, so you don't have all that metal contacting, and it's much smoother switch with less tension. As I said, S30V, not a real high-end premium steel on this one, but we're talking lengthwise still shorter just by a smidge than the Glykon, with a handle about the same in the high areas here. Anyway, one of my favorite OTFs. Just a real beautiful and smooth action. Well, let me know what you think. You may think, hey, that's too much for an OTF knife, but you know, it's just what you like. what you collect. Will this be an everyday banger arounder? I don't think so. But, you know, it is a great fidget knife. One thing I did want to show you, how Benchmade centers their blade, and Microtech, as with many other out the front knife makers, offsets it. So your spring mechanism's over on the side. I've never taken apart an Autocrat, so I'm not sure how they set that up, but that is interesting if it matters to you. All right. Hope you enjoyed this overview, hopefully brief, probably not, of the new Microtech Glykon out the front knife. You can pick these up at NC Blade. You can pick them up directly from Microtech. You can pick them up from Southern Edges, from Blade HQ, from Knife Center. I think, you know, they come and they go. But as of this date where this video drops, there are some available on NC Blade, should you choose to open your pocketbook. Be well, take care, enjoy.